Hello, good morning. Welcome to the verse of the day plus on this 27th of March 2020. Just give me a sec while I share this out on Facebook and, of course, Twitter. And then we will get into the verse of the day, and then we will do our study guide from Who Needs a Superhero. Study guide portion of it. Okay, so today the verse of the day comes from Psalms chapter 62, verse 7. My salvation and honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. Well, I don't think there's much to say there. But, especially in these troubling times, lean on God, let Him be your refuge, your rock. Let Him be your salvation. And it says your honor depends on Him because, He knows what you do and what you don't do. He knows reasons you do the things you do and don't do as well. So let that be the case. Let Him worry about what God thinks of you and not what the world thinks of you. So I guess that's about it for that. I need to change things up a little here so we can see the chat. Okay, so now we are on to study guide. So we are the last couple days we've had going over question 2. There's a lot of scriptures there for what are some of the powers Jesus possesses? Yesterday we made it to the third to last couple of scriptures. So now we are in Mark chapter 8 verses 1 through 13. I may or may not read that all. I don't like reading lengthy passages for you guys. I like just getting to the meat of it. Sometimes I read, 2 or 3 verses in a row. We don't want to be here all day. Chapter 8. Because I'm giving you the information so you can easily go do this. Check this all out yourself too. Okay, so Luke. Am I in Luke or Mark? I'm in Luke. I meant to go to Mark. Oh well. Mark. Chapter 8. Okay, so this is Jesus feeds the 4,000. So basically, Jesus has been teaching and preaching, and suddenly he's got this huge crowd of like just 4,000 guys, plus there's women and children, so there's a lot more than really just 4,000 people here. So now they've got to feed these people because you can't just send them away hungry. So this kid gives No, they have like 7 loaves of bread, I think it says. Here, I'll just read it. Better, easier, faster. Okay, during those days, another large crowd gathered. Since they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples and said, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days and nothing to eat. Wow, this huge crowd's been following him for 3 days. Crazy. Can you imagine following somebody on a whim for 3 days? Um, just because they're a great teacher? I'm not sure whether I can. If I send them home hungry, they will collapse on the way because some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered, But where in this remote place can anyone get enough bread to feed them? How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied. He told the crowd to sit down on the ground, and when he had taken the 7 loaves and had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. So they did so. They had a few small fish as well. So I don't know how many that would be. Maybe 3. Could be more. He gave thanks for them also and told the disciples to distribute them. The people ate and were satisfied, and afterwards the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. About 4,000 were present. After he had sent them away, he got in a boat. I don't know why we need the next part here. Got in a boat with his disciples and went to the region of Dalmanuthia. I think we only needed to read to like 9. Okay, so obviously I'd say from this portion we'd say Jesus can multiply food. I'm not sure how you'd exactly call that. What you'd call that. Multiplying food, make the food appear. Because the food that I doubt these people, everybody was having a crumb. I know it doesn't say about the women and children, but probably if I went to another version it would as well. So, but still, even if it's just 4,000 people, it's a miracle. So we have quite a few people here. 4,000 minimum 4,000 people. So yeah, multiplying food, I'd call that something to that. I don't know exactly. So now we have Luke chapter 9, 10 through 17. It's probably going to be another version of this, but we will see. Luke 9. And this is 10 through 17. Oh, this is when he feeds the 5,000. When the apostles returned, they reported to Jesus what they had done, and then he took them with him. So this is a different time too, the 5,000. Took them with him, and he withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. But the crowds learned about it and followed him. He welcomed them and spoke to them about the kingdom of God. He healed those who needed healing. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, Send the crowd away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countrysides and find food and lodging, because we are in a remote place here. He replied, "You give them to something to eat." And they answered, "We only have 5 loaves and of bread and 2 fish, unless we go and buy food for all this crowd." About 5,000 men were there. But he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of 50." He said to the disciples and sat everyone down. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them, and then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. So, like I said, again, this is the multiplying of food. In other words, you ain't going hungry when you got Jesus around. And last but not least, John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11 for this set. Oh, okay. Uh, on the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus' disciples also had been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to them, "They have no more wine." "Woman, do not involve me," Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." I love that. Yeah, hey, did they just tell you my time's not come yet? Ignore that, servants. Do whatever he tells you to. Okay, Mom. Maybe I'm filling, putting emphasis to where it doesn't need to be. Uh, Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Wow. Big jars. Big jars. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some and take it to the master of the banquet." So they did. The master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned to wine. He did not realize where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom and sat aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you saved the best to last." Jesus did what Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of signs through which he revealed his glory. His disciples believed in him. After this, he went to the town of Capernaum, and his mother and brothers and disciples, and stayed there for a few days. I think I read an extra verse. So, Jesus is the master over food. I guess we could say that. He's a master over food. Changing what? He can multiply food. He can change one food into another, if you want to call water a food. So, okay. Now we are in Mark chapter 15. And verse 32, and then supposed to go into 16. to verse 18. Okay, so this would be a very long thing. Basically, this is about Jesus' dying, his burial, and probably his being risen. Yeah, so this starts at Mark chapter 15, verse 32 through to 16, verse 18. So yeah, this is about his death. So he has power over death. Even being killed, he can raise himself. So we'll just say that that's easier than reading all this for you guys. And so Luke chapter next is Luke chapter 24 verses 1 through 40. And this is telling about Jesus being risen, Jesus having risen, talking to some guys on a road that didn't recognize him. So I don't know why they didn't recognize him. Probably several reasons. It's not. It seems like he was able to conceal himself without changing his appearance, I think. So there's that. So he has the power to rise from the dead, and power to hide his appearance. And here's one. Jesus appears to the disciples. This is from verse 36. While they were still talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." In other words, he just, boom, he sort of teleported in. Either that or he walked through the wall or whatever. He wasn't there and he was there, it seems like. So he has, teleportation. Nightcrawler. Star Trek, beam me in, Scotty. Okay, and so the last one for stuff to read for question 2 is John chapter 20. So I'm not sure exactly what this is. Well, the empty tomb again, about him being raised, about him appearing to Mary Magdalene. So again, he has the power to raise himself, has the power to disguise himself a little or not let himself be seen, recognized. Because it just says the whole thing here. Jesus appears to his disciples. On the first day of the week, when the disciples were together, the doors were locked for fear of the Jewish leaders. This is verse 19. Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." So again, it's just appearing to them. This is probably the same incident as we read about in Luke. So, yeah, there you have it for the powers. Anyways, so we'll quickly do hopefully number 3 here. Question 3. 3 says, how does Jesus use his powers for good? Reread the passages above. The effects of each exercise of power. Also read Mark. Here's a few scriptures. Okay, I'm not going to read all the ones above. We know that he used his powers to help people, feed people, cure people, to give them better lives, and such and so forth, I would say. However, I will read the passages that they do have here. So I'm going to read them in reverse order, the ones, just because I'm somewhat reverse order. So John chapter 3, 16 and 17. Okay, you guys should know the one verse here automatically. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. So he also using his powers to save the world. Not to condemn it, but to save it. I would say from that verse. You can, of course, comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think based on that verse and verses we read. Let's see, Mark chapter 10, verse 45. So this is Mark chapter 10, verse 45. Even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. So he's using his powers to serve, not to get served, but to serve. And then, of course, give his life, which then he raises. Okay, so in the next verse here, the verses is Luke chapter 9. Verses 52 through 56. Okay. After he sent a message on who went into the Samaritan village to get things ready for him, but the people did not welcome him because he was healing. He was heading for Jerusalem. When the disciples James and John saw this, they asked him, "Lord, why do you call fire? Why do you, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven and destroy them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them. And then the disciples went to another village. Okay. Not sure how much this has to do with what we were talking about, but he was there trying to help, so not everybody. There, I'm not sure what to comment on that verse or verses, but that was John and James said that about bringing down fire. But no, Jesus was there to serve, and in whatever way he could, or almost any way that he could. Okay, so that is it. Thank you all for tuning in. I know this might have gone a little longer than normal, but we shouldn't be going longer than normal now because, well, unless we get people here and talking. We'll be question 4 for chapter 1. Superman, Saving Sun. Remember to hit the like button, share, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. So we're actually moving on to another question tomorrow. Finally, that question too really took up a lot. So bye for now. God bless. Have a great and wonderful day. Maybe see you at high noon, whoever is listening to this beforehand. So bye for now. God bless. Love you all.